Shivaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Namaha.
கடந்த மோகமே யோகத்தின் பொலிவே
பிரபோ 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 தேவி விபோ லிங்கேஸ்வர 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 லிங்கேஸ்வர
तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे महादेवाय धीमहि तन्नो रुद्र प्रचोदयात् तन्नो रुद्र प्रचोदयात्
लिंगेश्वर
लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर
लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर लिंगेश्वर
Shrimatre Namaha. Namaskaram everyone, and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanatana Dharma Learning Series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society of Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanyanandanada, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Peethadipati of the Sri Vidya Temple. Both Ayya and Amma, Srimati Nyanamba, have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of Devi worship and the rich traditions of Saiva Bhakti. There are a few upcoming temple festivals and events taking place at the temple. On Thursday, April 14th, the temple will be celebrating Mesha Shankaranti beginning at 6:30 a.m. to commence the new year. On Saturday, April 16th, the temple will be observing Chitra Purnami in honor of the departed maternal ancestors. Group Shraddha Darpanam will be performed at the temple. If you would like to perform the Darpanam at the temple, please be sure to visit our website for more information. And lastly, on Sunday, April 17th, the Sri Vidya Temple will be performing a Mahapratingra Homa at the start of the Tamil New Year. And this is to bless all the devotees with the divine protection. Everyone who attends will have the chance to offer something directly into the sacred fire. For updates on our upcoming festivals and events, please subscribe to our email list. For those interested in viewing content discussed and shared during these sessions, please note that all content being discussed in these sessions will be posted after the conclusion of the respective topic on our webpage. Please use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/AYM-lectures. At this time, we will hand it over to Ayya to begin today's session.
Om Hamsa Siva Soham Hamsaha Hasaka Frame Hasakshamaravarayum Hasaum Sahakshamaravarayim Sahau Swarupa Nirupana Hetave Swagurave Sri Annapurneshwari Amba Sameda Srila Sri Amrutanandanada Saraswati Mahapattaraka Mama Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Namaha Namaskaram, everyone. I prostrate before my Sri Guru, Sri Amritanandanath Saraswati of Devipuram, India, and implore that he sit on my open heart lotus and speak through me. For the past few weeks, we have been considering the Panjavimsati Murti Vedam. Vedam means differences. That means the same entity can present itself in many forms. And we also looked at another set of 64 forms of Shiva. However, during my leisure time, I have been taking a look at various websites. Some of it is from the Saivite websites. Others are a little bit more Catholic. And I have noted that the Panjavimsati, Pancha 5, Vimsati 25. So the 25 forms of Shiva that are acceptable to everyone. This Panchavimsati Murti or Rupadayanam, this is the format that we have been following. And I discovered many more sets of 25 that claim to be the Panchavimsati Murti Dhyanam. But we have noticed that they have extracted forms from the 64 different murtis and entered them, with the result that none of them that profess to show the 25 murtis are not consistent. Some names are missing, some names have been added, but they are all from the 64 forms of Shiva. We have now, you can look at this. Later on, if you are interested, you can download this and print it for yourself. The ones that we follow is on the first column on the left. The second and third, those are just examples. There are many more, at least 4 or 5 more lists like this. The common ones are mentioned here. Now you will notice number 8, Tirumurti, is not there in the second and third list. Similarly, Kala Samhara Murti is not there in the second list. And this goes on. Now, we have looked at so many of them in interesting detail in the sense where they are located, where the temples are. And I apologize to people who come from other states in India, because there are 58,000 temples in Tamil Nadu. And my experience is only in Tamil Nadu, because I haven't seen even a tenth of the temples that are in Tamil Nadu. I know the states, great states of Andhra and Karnataka and Kerala and Rajasthan and Maharashtra also have beautiful temples, and I apologize to you because I'm not familiar with them and I have not studied them. Now today, one of the most popular forms in any Shiva temple is what we are going to look at. He's called Dakshinamurthy. In the Shivalayam, if we can go to the slide showing the Koshtam. In a Shivalayam, if the Shivalingam is in the Garbhagraham, sanctum sanctorium, the enclosure built around the Shivalingam on the outside is called Goshtam. Assuming that the Shivalingam, the entrance to the Shivalingam is facing Indra's direction, that is east. When we walk around in a clockwise fashion, Dakshinamurthy will be always found on the southern face of the Shivalayam. Dakshinamurthy is very important because Shiva as Adi Guru is depicted in this form. Now, Dakshinamurthy too is not just one form. As you walk around, we looked at Lingodbhava Murthy, which was our first one, and Brahma and Durga on Kubera's direction. Now, this Dakshinamurthy that we are going to see is depicted as a youthful Shiva. Some say 12 years, others say 8 years. He's seated under a banyan tree. In this banyan tree too, there are varieties. One is called in Tamil Alamaram. The other one is called Kallalamaram. What is the difference? Alamaram, the leaves will be about the size of your palm. If you extend it like this, it will be the size of your palm. Kallalamaram will be 3 to 4 times the size, the leaves, and it is relatively rare. So how did he happen to come and sit under such a tree? There are interesting stories. I have found that relating stories, whether they are adults or whether they are the listening audience are young people, it sticks in their mind. Now, Brahma, the creator, is supposed to have had Manasa Putras. That means they arose out of his consciousness. And there were 4 of them: Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, and Sujata. These 4 are wizened old men. They are close to 80 years old. First, they thought they were interested in the spiritual aspects of life and travel inside, antarmukam, inside, realizing that external puja and external worship is not going to take them anywhere, and it is going to take a long time. They sought the counsel of Narada. And Narada told them, okay, there is no better authority of the Vedas and these exquisite sciences than Brahma. From his 4 faces, the 4 Vedas have emanated. So you go and ask your father for Brahma Upadesam. This Brahma Upadesam is what is replicated in the case of Brahmin children, especially the males. Although it was also given to the females before. Somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd century, that practice was stopped. And there started the rot. Anyway, that's an entirely different subject. And Narada took them to Brahmalokam. And when they went in there, they found Devi Saraswati sitting and playing her veena. And Brahma was seated in front of her, and he is in ecstasy, enjoying the music. This did not sit properly with the 4 Brahmaputras. They said he is steeped in the music and the music of the senses. So there's no point in getting any Upadesam from him. And you know, Narada is very famous for creating trouble here and there. He'll light a fuse and enjoy the fun. So he said, let's go to Vishnu, Narayana. So they go to Vaikundam. And you cannot just enter the mandiram where they are. But Narada is allowed to go anywhere. So he goes inside and he finds the Lord is stretched out and Mahalakshmi, his consort, is massaging his feet. And Narayana is in Yoga Nidra. Now they go and they look at him and they find his eyes closed and they decide he's also enjoying the massaging, the sensations. So they think that he's not capable of doing this, giving Brahmopadesam too. Of course, Narada had a very particular purpose for discouraging them getting this from these two. So he tells the four of them, let's go to Kailash. Parameshwara will give whatever that is. And they go to Kailash, and Parameshwara, the all-knowing one, divines that these four are coming towards him. So what he does is he goes to Manasarovar, the highest lake that India is famous for, and into which all the rishis and everybody else, yogis of the highest order, have been sitting and meditating and performing tarpanam, and the waters are now replete with the divine forces of the mantras. A small digression. If you have read the story of Dr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist, who established that water can store information. In the Drexel University in this country, they produced a thumb drive, water-based of course, which could hold several gigabytes of memory. So you know, if you know the technique of extracting the information from Manasarovar, all this divine knowledge of the ancients who have sat there and done tapas, and they have done homams and tarpanam and mantra japam, you will get them. So Shiva chooses this Manasarovar, and facing south, he sits under a Kallala Vriksham, the large-leaved variety of a banyan tree, facing south. He is therefore, because he is facing south, Yama's direction, he is called Dakshinamurthy. And Dakshinamurthy, there are various forms, but the original Dakshinamurthy that sat and looked south with his eyes closed, facing south. The four of them go there with Narada, and without being told, they just sit down and they lose themselves. Their senses are withdrawn and they are seated there motionless. The one who is seated is a youthful figure. Medium of instruction is silence. This form is called Medha Dakshinamurthy, which is the most popular one. Now, if you will look, on the upper left hand, he has fire. On the upper right hand, he has a japamala. And on the forward left hand, he has the Vedas in Ola leaves. And the right hand is held. Now, the artist did not study the form properly. It shows Chin Mudra like this. Chin Mudra is not to be done like this. Chin Mudra, you have to go to the line that is there and the middle portion, and the forefinger has to press down in there. If it presses down in there, the nerves that are there, your concentration and your ability to stay motionless is increased. This is called Chin Mudra. And the most popular one, most popular mantra for Dakshinamurthy is Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Medham Prajnam Prayachya Swaha. This Dakshinamurthy is there, and on four sides in front of him, there is Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanat Sujata. Some cases I have seen, Dakshinamurthy is surrounded by the Sapta Rishis. There are some forms, Murti Bedam it's called, some forms where the Sapta Rishis, the 7 Rishis are there. And in other forms, I have seen a parrot on the tree, and that parrot is called Sukha. So there are actually 5 of them. Now, what is interesting about Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanat Sujata is that our Guru, or my Guru, Sri Amritanandanada, is descended from Sanat Kumara's lineage. He comes directly from that lineage. So you know that all the 4 rishis, excuse me, that are shown here, they have their own lineages formed, and the disciplines associated with them will be very little. Excuse me. Now, before I move away from here, if you have to know, there are 64 forms of Dakshinamurthy. 64 forms of him. Some places he is standing, some places he is in particular asanas. I think in the following weeks, before we proceed, I'll show you the different asanas that Swami sits on. Each asana has a meaning. Asana means seat. Now you see, in this, his left foot is resting on his right knee. And his right foot is resting on Muyalaka, the negative tendencies that will be created when you embark on mantra japam, on the journey of mantra japam. And suppression of those negative tendencies is only possible through his grace. That is why Manikavasar, when he wrote Avanarulale Avantal Vanangi, this is what he meant. You cannot try to control them on your own. If the grace is there, they will be suppressed. Now, there are several, like I told you, there are several forms. But before we go there, let's take a side street and look at an interesting story. Many of you know, in Tiruvannamalai, the sage of Tiruvannamalai, who died in 1951 on New Year's Day, Ramana Maharishi, was considered by many, and even him in some of his songs that he has composed, Annamalai, Aksharamani Malai. He has alluded to the fact that he may be, that there are hints that he is Subramanya. And Bhagavan, just with the Kaubinam, had the habit of taking a walk on his own without anybody following. When they try to follow him, he will say, Vanda. And he was advanced in age. One day he set off at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon with his cane, started on a journey around the mountain, Tiruvannamalai. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. He hasn't returned. The devotees who were there were very worried. And they formed a search party. About 5 or 6 of them started. And they were looking everywhere and walking around the mountain. At a distance, at some elevation, they saw Bhagavan seated on a rock. And relieved, but also worried at the same time that something may have happened to him, they walked up the mountain. When they were about 20 feet away from him, he said, Nilungo, don't come anymore. Don't come any closer. So one of them said, Bhagavan, Swami, you haven't come back to the ashramam, so we were worried, we came. He said, I know. And he got up. And immediately, there was a buzzing sound and hundreds of bees settled on his thighs, his legs, and stung him. He still put his hand out and said, don't come. Without even the slightest expression of pain or discomfort, he walked towards the devotees. And they were worried. So they said, can we at least use some of the, the mulikas, the herbs that were profusely growing in that area? I said, okay. So they took the thing, they made him sit down somewhere and then cleaned the wounds. And there were hundreds of bee stings. They asked them, what happened, Swami, what happened, Bhagavan? He told them, I was walking and I saw a Kallala Vriksham. And in front of the Kallala Vriksham, there was this flat piece of rock. Something inside me impelled me to go there and sit down. And I came and I sat down there. Look at the posture. It's exactly like Dakshinamurthy. When I sat on this thing, I lost myself. I forgot where I was and I closed my eyes and went into meditation. So they walked back to the ashram with the greatest difficulty. They tried to carry him, he refused. They walked back. And that day of, unusually, he used to always wait till the devotees were there before he would eat. And he ate with them. And instead of sitting with them for some time, which was his usual practice, he said, I have to rest a little bit. He was in his 70s. So this Kallala Vriksham, many people, when they heard the story in Ramanashram, including Kavya Ganta Ganapati Muni and the Kunjaswami, that is Ravana Maharishi's brother's son, the younger one, they wanted to go and see where it is. He said, you can go, but if you see the tree, don't go anywhere near it, because it is protected by these bees. I don't know whether they were bees or whether they were hornets, but they said bees. Anyway, this Dakshinamurthy form, one of them, can we go to the list of Dakshinamurthis, Amma? The slides? Okay, here are the written forms. Jnana Dakshinamurthy, Vyagyayana Dakshinamurthy, Yoga Dakshinamurthy, Vinadara Dakshinamurthy, Navakshari Dakshinamurthy, Taraka Dakshinamurthy, Kapila Dakshinamurthy, Vipula Dakshinamurthy, Medha Dakshinamurthy. That's the one that was, the mantra was initiated, given to me by Guruji. Varada Dakshinamurthy, Yoga Pattabhirama Dakshinamurthy, Shakti Dakshinamurthy, Asina Dakshinamurthy, Dharma Vyakyayana Dakshinamurthy, Utkuditasana Dakshinamurthy, Sukhasana Dakshinamurthy, Ardhanarishwara Vinadara Dakshinamurthy, Samba Dakshinamurthy, Hari Guru Siva Yoga Dakshinamurthy, Vishabharauda Dakshinamurthy. Veena Dakshinamurthy is missing. Oh, it's in the next list. Okay, go to the next slide, please. (21 to 40) is what we have given here. There's another form of Dakshinamurthy. He carries a veena. Shastra Dakshinamurthy, Ardhanarishwara Dakshinamurthy, Airudra Rupa Dakshinamurthy, Veera Dakshinamurthy, Raja Dakshinamurthy, Lakshmi Dakshinamurthy, Brahma Vidya Dakshinamurthy. All these forms, what does it tell you? Any form of knowledge has come from Shiva. That's what it shows you. All the forms, including engineering, medicine, astronomy, astrology, everything has come from him. And 2 years ago, I don't know how many of you remember, the temple produced a calendar. In there, Swami is standing with his hands facing downwards like this. One side, Kubera is seated. On the other side, Mahalakshmi is seated, and money is pouring onto them. And we looked at the story where the chakra that Vishnu carries was given to him by Swami. And we looked at the story too. So there are a number of these Dakshinamurthy forms here. We have 15 minutes for questions, and Sriji. 15 minutes for questions. Okay. I'll tell you one more story and then we can carry. This the Dakshinamurthy form that you have on this thing, many of them, depending on where the Shiva temple is and what the purpose of this Shiva temple, at least in Tamil Nadu. Thiru Avadu Thurai, Alankudi. Thiru Alankudi, if you have never visited that place, I must ask you, make a visit there one day. If not to see anything else, to look at the Dakshinamurthy statue that is on the southern face of the Shivalayam, the southern Koshtam. You will feel immediately that you have to sit down and close your eyes. Tremendous form, tremendously beautiful form. This Tiruvalankudi Dakshinamurthy. Now, there is one other form of Dakshinamurthy that Guruji taught me. The normal form of Meda Dakshinamurthy is his left foot is resting on his right knee. That means the Shakti side of his body is resting on Shiva. So the mantra is, like I told you, Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Medam Prajnam Prayacha Swaha. Guruji said there's another form where the right leg is resting on the left, where he is in Shakti Pradhanam, Shakti Pradhanasanam. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Medam Prajnam Samyacha Swaha. So I asked him, Ayya, I haven't seen this mantra in anything. He said it is not revealed to everyone. So, we have been lucky. He gave both forms to us. Now, many of you also know about the Devi Akhilandeshwari, who is in Jambugeshwaram, in Thiruvannaikaval, in Trichy. A living embodiment of this Devi, Akhilandeshwari, lived amongst us for many years, interacted with us, visited our temple, did the Bhumi Puja to our temple, did so many things for us before she passed away in 2018. I was visiting Chennai and I was in her house. She was talking to me and she said, Ayya, I understand that you conduct workshops for puja, how to do puja to people. You teach them. I said, yes, Amma, to the extent that my Guruji has taught me and to the extent that I have been able to absorb it, I have been doing it. She said, in Tamil, Inga parungo, enna sutti 75 பேர் இருக்கா, there are 75 odd people around me. Most of them are in their 60s. And many of them, they have been doing pujas in their house, grandfather, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, then these people. But they don't know the science behind this. I'm asking you, will you teach them? I was afraid. These are people who are mature people and have been super ultra orthodox and they have been doing pujas. She said, "Bayapadadinga, I will be with you, don't worry." And she said, I will invite the ones I want, because there are people who have a passing interest in puja and others who are really interested. So she herself sat down and called about 60 to 70 people. They came. She organized a little hall for me and gave me a puja set. I went there. And for the next 5 hours or 4 hours, we learned the intricacies of puja and the science behind it. Like what metals to use, why to choose certain metals. How come the water is used, which I described to you as, discovered by Dr. Masaru Emoto. If you notice, every one of our rituals, we use water. In the Ajavana Patram, water is there. Panchapatram, water is there. If you go to a Vaishnava temple, Panchapatram means Panchapatram. There are 5 of them in front of Perumal. Each of them, why do you use either Swarnam, Rajatam or Tamram? Swarnam is gold. Rajatam is silver. Tamram is copper. All these 3 are antibacterial. So from the beginning, each metal, what its chemical properties were, what will happen if you pour water, what will happen if you leave them exposed in the atmosphere, all those things were taught to them. At the end of the class, Amma smiled. She came and sat. And I had already fallen at her feet and told her, Amma, when I'm speaking, if you come and sit, I won't be able to talk. You know why? Because Varahi is Vaksambanam. The first time when I went and met her and did namaskaram to her and got up, my tongue was stuck to the roof of my mouth. I couldn't move the tongue. That is Vakstambanam. So I told her, Amma, please don't do that. She came and sat and was smiling. After the class was done, she gave me a vigraham of Ardhanarishwara in seated form. Have you ever seen one like that? The only other place where I saw a vigraham like that was in Kasi, in the Hanuman Ghat. in the house of Nadamandi Subramania Sar, Subramania Iyer, one of his living disciples, he is no more now in his house. Oh, this big. But this form Amma gave me is Ardhanarishwara, seated, half Devi, half Shiva, and on their lap is Ganapati. It's upstairs, you can see it. So, this form, Amma told me, is Ardhanarishwara. Although you look at it like that, he is actually Dakshinamurthy. So, if you worship, you will get Devi's grace and you will get his grace. Questions? Did we get any questions?
Yes. Does the deer held in Shiva's left hand also have a connection to the Guru or Mrigi Mudra?
Can you
Yeah.
display the question, Amma?
Yeah.
Does the deer held in Shiva's left hand also have a connection to the Guru or Mrigi Mudra? Of course it does. The Mrigi Mudra, if you can find the Mrigi Mudra anywhere and show it to the listeners, the Mrigi Mudra is your pinkies and your index fingers have to be united together, the tips of them, and the other 6 fingers have to be placed together. They should be placed in such a way that if you place the Mrigi Mudra on top of your head, all 6 fingers must touch your head. Sometimes people do it like this, and only the thumbs will touch. That's incomplete. All the 6 mudras, 6 fingers have to touch. And the Mrigi means deer, through the grace of the Guru lineage and through the grace of the mother, the fleeting nature of the deer. Deer will not stand in one place for too long. Its eyes will be darting here and there because it's looking out to see whether there are any predators around. But that is the nature of the human mind. It will go to one thought, then attaching itself to that thought, it will go on to another one. And from there, another one, and another one, and another one. And it will keep going round and round and round. That is the depiction of the deer. And by holding it in his left hand, remember, left hand is Vamabahe Vahandam Nanalangara Yuktam Parvadisam Namami. Parvati is on the left side. So it's only the mother who can control your mind. Yes, so this connection is there. The Mrigi is controlled by her. Next question.
Is Om the Bijakshara for Dakshinamurthy, or is it silence?
Display the question, please. Because I'm not the only one who is looking at it. Others are looking at it too. Can you, okay. Is Om the Bijakshara for Dakshinamurthy? Or is it silence? Remember what I used to chant from the Bible? John, the Gospel according to John. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and God was the Word. And this word, Om, is that word. In the beginning, before creation, for Christians it is Amen. For Muslims it is Ameen. For Buddhists it is Hum. For the Native Americans it is This Omkaram is the Bijakshara for is Omkaram, Om the Bijakshara for Dakshinamurthy. Now, before the manifestation of sound, in the beginning was the word. In the Tirukural it says, Akara Muda Eluthellam Adi Bhagavan Mudatte Ulagu. Akaram Mudal Eluthellam, beginning with the Akaram. And here, in the beginning was the word. So, if the word is manifested sound, what was there before the sound manifested? Was silence. And that silence in this vastness of space without anything in it, primordial space before creation, before the so-called Big Bang, the only thing that was there was silence. So that is why Bhagavan is closed, his eyes are closed. If you look very closely, you will see half open eyes. A poet describes it very nicely in Tamil. Viritta Senchadayada, the matted locks are now spread out while he is dancing and they are red in color, reddish hair. Vadana Chandiranada, the face that is like a full moon is dancing. Next line is important. Viri, Kamala, Nayanam, Ada. Viri means slowly it's opening. The lotus, Kamalam is lotus. So like a lotus petal opening, Viri, Kamala, Nayanam, his eyes, slowly the eyelids are opening. That opening of the eyelids halfway is a mudra. And that mudra will take you inside. It's a meditative mudra. And you cannot replicate it with your conscious mind because you try to keep your eyes like this, the eyes will start to quiver. And if there's movement, mind won't be one-pointed. So that must occur naturally. Viri Kamala Nayanamada. And he says, Van Muruval Nilavada, as a mysterious smile on his face. A well-made Murti of Nataraja exhibits all of these things. If you go and look at it closely, you will enjoy it. So, yes, the silence is Dakshinamurthy's nature, and Omkaram is a result of the silence now descending on the humanity and on his devotees, giving the grace. So Om is the manifestation of his grace. And what did we learn before? The grace of Shiva is Devi. Okay, next question. Last question, eh?
Okay. What is the significance of Dakshinamurthy facing south? Isn't that direction considered inauspicious?
No, always the Guru sits facing south. When Upadesam is done, he's supposed to, now I'm talking about Saiva Siddhantam. In the Saivite corpus, he has to sit facing southwards. Because south is Yama's direction. Chant the mantra for Yama in the Diksampadanyasam, you will understand why. Yamaya Dandahastaya, he has a something like a stick, but slightly thicker than that. Dandahastaya Dharmadipadaye. He is always righteous. He will not take anyone who is not supposed to leave at that time. He won't take anyone before or after. The only time he failed was with Markandeya. Mahisha Vahanaya What is Mahisham? Mahisham is your mind. It's like a bullock. It's like a buffalo. You can't direct it easily to do this or do that. So that is why he faces south. Okay, we'll see you again next weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayya, for sharing about Dakshinamurthy and more about the different forms of Shiva. We're excited to continue learning more about the various forms in the upcoming sessions. To access all content from prior sessions, please visit srividya.org/AYM-lectures. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us for today's session. At this time, we will hand it over to Vyasa Uncle to begin today's yoga session. We'll see you all next session.
Greetings and pranams to Ayya and all devotees of the Sri Vidya Temple and Ashtanga Yoga Mantra. We are in the process of looking into various forms of practices which can enable, which can give us the great energy. So there is a beautiful word which is called as Kaya Kalpam. So if you take the classification of the Kaya Kalpam, you have the Podu Kaya Kalpam and Sirappu Kaya Kalpam. That is a Kaya Kalpam which is generally used for day-to-day purposes to slow down the aging, to maintain the youthfulness of the body. The Podu Kaya Kalpam. It's a very common. Generally in the food, and especially you will see that most of the prasadams which is offered to the temple is considered, comes under the category of the Kaya Kalpam. Then you have the special Kaya Kalpam, Sirappu Kaya Kalpam, which is basically is a form where if any diseases are there, where there are very specific herbs, leaves, roots, metals are used in the preparation in various forms. So either whether it is a Podukaya Kalpam or Sirapukaya Kalpam, under these Podukaya Kalpam or Sirapukaya Kalpam, you will see yogam, that is especially asanam, pranayamam, all are considered as Kaya Kalpam. So the Ashtanga Yogam, Yamam is a Kaya Kalpam, Niyamam is a Kaya Kalpam, Asanam is a Kaya Kalpam, Pradyaharam is a Kaya Kalpam, Pranayama is a Kaya. So all these are considered as Kaya Kalpam because it rejuvenates the system. In that Kaya Kalpam process, one of the most important region of the focus is the navel region, the stomach region. So today we will do a specific practice which enriches, because maintenance of the navel region, or we call it as also as the Udara Agni, is very important in preserving the energy. So those who are comfortable, you can come into this Vajrasana like this. If you find it difficult, you can have a cushion below. Just to ensure that you are very comfortable. And then you take the Adi Mudra and then you place it down. So in the first practice, you will see the fingers are facing up. And then you take a deep breath and then you breathe out and you will go as much as possible. Breathe out. And then you will breathe in, come up. Then you will breathe out, go down. This practice has to be done as slow as much as possible. So basically the idea is you do about 9 times, and then after completing the 9 times, you will be here in this position like this. What is most important is the normal breathing in this position. There's a set of asanas, this is called as the Mandukasana. So we place this in different forms, like this, we place like this, and then you start doing it. Every time when you change the palm, when you change the mudra, the impact on the navel region is immense. So this also you will do 9 times. After that, this is your left palm. You will keep your hands in this position. So still the hand is in Adho Mudra. Place it under, and then you will go down. So when you do this practice, you will insert it, and then you will see the impact around the diaphragm region. Gastric disorders, or even for conditions like the pranas, which controls around below the diaphragm region. If it is not working properly, then you will see that some people can have urine infection, bowel movement, irritable bowel syndromes, or even constipation issues. So this practice, you can do it on the chair also. There's no problem. You can do it, get the same benefit. And then once you finish it, you be in that position. And when you are in that position, you need to ensure that you don't have any pain or uneasiness, because it is something like that when the whole body is balanced on that region. You need to see whether you have any burning sensation in this issue. And then slowly you will come up, and then relax your palms, and then slowly do a circular movement of 27 times with Dirgha Swasa. Normal breathing. And then once you finish that movement, clockwise rotation, we will go ahead with the Dirgha Swasa. So you take a deep breath, breathe out, you will do 9 rounds. So this sequence will ensure that your system is well nourished. And there are various forms which is done in ensuring that the Udaragni is taken care very well. So thank you very much. And my namaskaram to Ayya and all the devotees, and see you all in the next session. We'll end the session with the mantra. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.